Hello and welcome back. Today I'm in the kitchen instead of the garage. There's no engine in front of me, I'm not at the track, we're doing something a bit different today. Now it might surprise you that in another life I was a qualified baker before changing industries. So today I thought I would share my skills and abilities and make some nice fresh cinnamon scrolls for you. Now I'm making some cinnamon scrolls today, very easy recipe. However, there is a bit of prep time involved, so just be patient. The more patience you have, the better they'll turn out. So without further ado, let's go through the ingredients. So we've got a kilo of strong unbleached baker's flour. Has to be baker's flour, of course, because it provides the most strength and most protein for the yeast to feed off. 550 milliliters of tap temperature water. You can put the yeast in here if you like, but I have found it not to be necessary. I've got the dried yeast here, pretty self-explanatory what it does if you're familiar with baking. The yeast feeds off the sugars in the flour, which creates CO2, which rises the dough. Now, we've got 2 lots of sugar, 180 grams total. We've got 80 grams for the actual dough itself. Then we've got 100 grams combined with 7 grams of cinnamon powder, which is going to be inside the scrolls and on top of it. And we have 20 grams of salt. Now it is important to not leave the salt out. If you leave the salt out, the dough will rise too quickly and it'll collapse when you bake it. If you want it to be sweeter, put more sugar in. Don't leave the salt out, very important. So we've got our ingredients, now it's time to mix it. Now you can mix this by hand if you want to be there for an hour and have very sore arms afterwards. I opt for a stand mixer. I've got a Kenwood Chef, which I'll pull out now. So we've got our mixer all ready to go. Now it's time to chuck in the ingredients and give it a mix. Now you want to start off on the slower speed just to combine all the ingredients together. Once it's formed a rough dough, then you can speed it up a bit. Shit. So that's coming along a bit better now that I've put the oil in it. I was wondering why I was a bit dry, but should be all right. So about 7 minutes into mixing, and this is what the dough is looking like. Nice and smooth, but still a bit to go. So it doesn't stretch that well, it just breaks. I'll show you what the dough should look like when it's finished, but it's looking very good. So we'll chuck it back in and give it a bit more. So after about 15 minutes in the Kenwood boxing ring, the dough is ready. See, when I stretch it, it goes translucent. That's called the window test. That means the gluten is fully developed and ready to go. But before we roll it into scrolls, make it into a ball, and then we'll put it in a greased bowl for about 20 minutes just to let it rest, because you'll find that it will be too hard to roll out in its current form. Give it a hit with canola spray, just so it doesn't stick. And then just chuck a tea towel on top of it. And then put this somewhere out of the way. Make sure your dog doesn't get it. And come back in about 20 minutes. We'll see you then. We are back, and I've got to say, it certainly has expanded quite a bit. But it's looking good. It smells very nice. So, there is one problem though. I don't have a rolling pin. So, this is going to be a challenge and a half. I'm just going to have to push it out by hand. Should be right, that'll just be a bit extra thick. Feels pretty even, so we'll go ahead and sprinkle as much or as little cinnamon sugar on. I like to keep most of it on the top to get that nice sugary top. Fold it a little lip over, like that, push it down. This will be the center of the scroll. And then slowly scroll it down, tucking it in as you go. Before you get to the end, you leave about 2 centimeters of bare dough. Fill up anything with water and just splash some down. You can use a spray bottle if you like, that's what we use at the bakery. So I use about 3 fingers as a guide. and then just cut. Obviously, if you don't have a dough cutter, you can use a knife, that's fine. These really aren't the prettiest I've ever done, but as I said, they'll taste pretty good. Cinnamon sugar. This is where I really go ham with the cinnamon sugar. They're ready to go in the oven. See, they've gone up in size a bit. We'll put them in there for about 12 minutes to start off with, and then check them, and then go from there. So there you have it. Nice and simple cinnamon scroll, ready to be eaten. It's not the most perfect recipe, probably not the tastiest, but it's one you can try. It's pretty easy, it's pretty cheap. And the best thing about it is you can eat them hot, fresh from the oven, as opposed to waiting for them.